Hi, my name is Nick Caruso, and this is a very technical video of how to create a Microsoft.NET COM Visible DLL. And this is really designed specifically for VB scripters or coders that want to integrate really any 32-bit Windows application with a custom DLL. And the whole reason to create custom DLLs are if you're integrating with third-party applications. Now, this video is being put together to show how to integrate NSi AutoStore with lots of other back-end systems, but really it applies to any 32-bit application or any application that wants to interface with a DLL. So in this case, I have NSi AutoStore, which is represented by the server in the middle. Now, NSi AutoStore is a client-server-based application with clients on the left-hand side, such as a mobile device, multifunction device, web client, and so forth. Now, NSi AutoStore is a 32-bit application, at least as of version 6. And on the right-hand side, I want to integrate with a custom system such as a content management system, a database system, and so forth. And I could be interfacing with that via web services or a custom API and so forth. Now, Notable Solutions has a very powerful scripting capability, leveraging usually VB script. Now, VB script is good for lightweight scripting, but if you want to integrate with a custom backend system that has complex web services or other APIs, you're probably going to want to do that in C# or VB.NET. Additionally, you may want to separate the complexity of that integration from the core application NSi AutoStore, where you could run a test in your own test environment and once ready, then integrate it into the AutoStore platform. So in this case, what we want to do is we want to create a C# DLL COM wrapper that will interface with a backend system. It will be called from VB script, which is native inside NSi AutoStore, which is a 32-bit application. So let's get started. I'm going to be creating code here from scratch, showing you exactly how to do this. And I thought the best way to show creating a custom DLL would be instead of searching a proprietary or interfacing with a proprietary backend system like SharePoint or some CRM or content management system, that we would use a Windows folder structure to show searching a Windows folder structure and pulling back search results. So in this case, I have a folder structure here under AutoStore files, which is I believe about 7,000 folders. And in this folder structure, I've created two subfolders with a subfolder value of 5551212. And what I want to do is I want to search across all these 5,000 nested or 7,000 nested folders and subfolders to find where this folder may be. This is actually a real-world example posted on our forums. So I'm going to pull up a VB script test application. What I've written here are two test procedures, one called test FSO, which is using Microsoft's native file system object, and then a DLL I've already written, which we'll rewrite again from scratch, that does the same thing. So using the native file system object, if I run this, it should take about 6 to 8 seconds to process through all those folders. I'm running this on a Windows 7 dual-core CPU. So it took about 8 seconds, and it actually found both results. And I'm going to do this again and click OK, and it will now use the DLL to do that search. You can see here it was 4 times faster interfacing with that DLL. So this is in VB script, and I'm going to go into detail here as to what the code is in just a few minutes as far as creating the code, but let's just go through this right now. So the first call is using the file system object. I've already declared the file system object up on top here. And it's being passed in a root folder path. In this case down here, I was passing in C AutoStore files and then my search query. So the root path and the search query. And all it's doing is it's calling the standard file system object. This is native to VB script to search all the folders. If the folder name matches, place it into an array, and then recursively go through all of its subfolders, and that took about 8 seconds. Using a DLL approach, same thing, passing in a path and a search parameter. And in this case, it is calling a custom DLL that I've written, and in this custom DLL, searching a directory, and that's what we're going to be doing in just a few minutes. So you can see 4 times faster interfacing with a custom DLL. So let's get started in creating this custom DLL. Alright, so before we get started, a quick caveat. Although I have a degree in computer science, I'm not employed as a full official computer programmer, so this is more of a Nick Caruso's version of creating a custom DLL. All right, so I have a folder here called a subfolder here called search folders, and all my code's going to reside in this folder structure. I'm going to open up a free version of Visual Studio called Visual Studio Express. Just for this training purpose, I'm just using this Visual Studio Express. And you can just go ahead and download this off the internet. All right, so I'm going to create a new project. And I'm going to create a new Windows project because I'm going to use Microsoft Windows and a Windows form to do some unit testing. And so I'm going to call this search folders.test. Search folders is going to be my namespace, and then test and my other dots are going to be individual projects. So search folders.test. I'm going to click OK. And it should build out this structure for me. I want my solution name to actually just be called search folders. And then my project now to be called search folders.test. All right, so I've got a form here. And what I want to do is I want to put a button on this form to do a search, maybe a text box for the root folder, or maybe the search term to search for. And let's add another text box for the root folder. And let's add another text box for output. All right, that looks good so far. Let me label these. So my root, and I'm going to put in my default value in here. All right, this is again very quick, but just for testing, my text box, my search term. All right, and let's make this our log result file. We will make it multi-line. Let's add some scroll bars to it. Nice and big. Our button. All right, good. And let's anchor point this as we resize. It should resize appropriately. Same with these. Let's just keep it like that. So we should be good to go like that. That's good enough. All right. Let's go ahead and save this. And let's put this in the search folders. All right, so if I go back to my file system now, I should see under code files, I have a search folders directory. I have a subfolder called search folders.test, and here's my code. Excellent. So let's go back in here, and I just like to do lots of individual unit testing. You can see here, yep, everything looks good. All right, let's put in a default value in here, 5551212, good. If I double click on my button here, it should open up the code files here, good. And let's just add a log output, good. Excellent. All right, let's clear that log each time we start. All right, so now let's create a function in here called search directory. And it will take two parameters, what directory we're searching for, and the search string. Okay, good. So let's do for each directory in directory dot, well, let's see, I need a namespace or a library in here, system.io. And now I should see that. Good. So directory.get directories and my search directory. Good. Okay, now let's loop through each directory, and let's do this again. So get directories. And now my search term. All right, and let's just write to the output monitor right now that subdirectory if it's found. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting all the subdirectories in here, and then within the subdirectories of those directories, I'm filtering by a certain string. And if I find the appropriate subdirectory, I'm just going to output it to the status monitor here, or the console, I should say. And then I can recursively do this again. But in this time, I'm passing in the parent directory, the search string. Good. Okay, so I should be able to run this now. And I'm passing in my root and my search string, my search term. Okay, let's run this test. And it did output it to the status monitor down here, so let's output it to the log window out here. Okay. Let's add a new line. Excellent. So you can see a very, very quick result. Good. All right, now instead of outputting it to the log right here, let's break out this function here, because originally or eventually we're going to want to call this function from VBScript. So let's pass in a list, so a string list, and let's call it results. And then let's append, oh, it really didn't like that, did it? All right, and then let's append to this list the result, or I should say add. All right, and then let's create this list up here. Okay, good. Now I can do for each result in results. Let's run a test. Let's see if that works. Excellent. Very quick result. Good. So I've now created a standalone function here that I can call, and I can pass in 2 parameters and my lists and my result list. That's all working great. Now the problem is that VBScript doesn't like lists. It doesn't. That's I think a .NET variable type. I could do an array, but I've also had problems passing arrays back and forth with VBScript. So let's do this, but let's return instead a string that's delimited by a certain field. So let's just do something called search. Let's make this search directory. And let's make this search directory recursive. Okay, and when you call search directory, you're going to be calling in that, passing in a string. So let's create our string up here. And then let's take, why didn't it like that? Reference. Good. And then let's do our results. Let's create a star delimited CSV based upon a result list. Okay, why did it not like that? Oh, that's a function. All right, so I now should have a single string that I'm returning back, which this will make it very friendly for VB script to call. And so now this is a string, and in here I need to do can I do this? Results.split. All right, now let's test this out. Lots of unit testing. Unit testing is always a good thing. All right, so this is working well. So I've created a function here. I pass in two variables, and by string, I will get back a string list that I'm passing by reference. I convert this string list to an array that then turns into a star delimited list of results. Let me just output this so you can see it. And here it is. So here was result 1. Followed by a star and result 2. All right, so I know this may be a little confusing, but the heart of this is I'm creating a function here that I'm passing in some, I think they're called primitive variable types. I'm passing in two strings, and I'm passing out by reference a string result. Now, I could have made this a string and returned the result. I could have done that. Reason I didn't do that is because I haven't done any error trapping yet. So any good coding should have some error trapping. So that's my structure. So I'm trying this, and I want to catch an error. And I want to catch the error in my .NET code because VBScript doesn't do a very good job of if I pass this up through VBScript and for VBScript to catch that error. So what I want to do is I want to catch the error in here, and what I want to do is I want to return an error state if there is an error. So I'm going to create a variable here called error return, and if that's empty, that means that there was no error. If it is not empty, that means there was an error. So my return value is, and I always like doing this, is always a string. And that way, by passing by reference, I can pass in a whole bunch of results or reference or output, and I can extrapolate the code very easily like that. All right, so let's add a little documentation on here. So searches a directory and all subdirectories based on a search string. Those are self-explanatory. Returns. If error, returns an error. If return is empty, this means no error. Otherwise, it will contain the error message. A star delimited list of results. All right, excellent. Let's just test this out again. Make sure we're good. No errors. Great. And let me get rid of this console statement. All right, so I've created a Microsoft.NET in C# code that interfaces with a it could be a backend system, whatever. In this case, it's just my file system. I'm going to want to make this public now so it is visible outside. So now when I compile this, and I'll go ahead and compile it right now, right-click and I clicked Build on Solution. This is my folder. This is the folder it was created. If I go to bin, release, I have an executable. So I have an executable right now, and if I double-click on it, it calls my hello world. I should get rid of hello world, and outputs the results. Excellent. But I don't want an executable. I want a DLL, because I need a DLL to interface with my backend system, or in this case, with AutoStore. So what I want to do here is I want to right-click, Add, New Project. This is going to be a class library. I'm going to call it search folders dot wrapper. In this case, it's kind of like my COM wrapper. Good. And what I want to do here is I want to take the code that was here for these two guys, and I'm going to move it in there. All right, so I need to do the system IO. My class, I'll just call it search. All right, so that should be fine. So now I've taken I've created a custom class, and let me rename this. And I want to call this DLL now, search folders.wrapper, from my test code. So let me go back in here. Let me add by reference that my new wrapper. And then in here, what I can do is I can do search folders dot wrapper now dot search directory should pop up. No. Dot search Okay, so I've now created a unit test Microsoft Windows application, which is very important and very cool, so I don't have to be in AutoStore or whatever my 32-bit application is. My heart of my code is in this wrapper. So if I open it up, here's the heart of my code. I have a public function and a private function. Now if I go in here, I can test it, and everything should work. All right, let's just search on just the folder test. I have 3 test folders. Great. So everything's working perfectly. So now I've just created a completely functional DLL and wrapper. If I build my solution now, and I go back to my file system, if I click on the search folder, you'll see now there's my test forms application and my wrapper, and under my wrapper, if I go to bin, under release, I have a DLL, and this DLL now I can interface with AutoStore or any 32-bit application which should have a function in here called search directory. All right, so before I move further, what I'd like to do in all of these when I create a COM wrapper like this is I'd like to just say some sort of test function. And all it will do is return and say hi to whatever name you provided. Now I know the more official way of doing this would be, what is it? String.format. I think that's more of the appropriate way of doing these that's I think the more secure way of doing it as well. Anyway, all right. So I can call this from my DLL and test it out. Now there's one more thing that's critical that I have to do. Under Properties, under Assembly, I need to change this to make it COM Visible. and I'm done now. So now I can hit build, and I should be, if I go back to my directory here, I have a DLL here that I just built, and I'm ready to now call this DLL from a 32-bit application and get access to those functions. So before I do that, I need to register it. Now, if this were a VB6 DLL, I would do it with reg as server, whatever it was called. With .NET, since this is a .NET DLL, I have to do it with regasm. Now, a couple things. If you right-click and go on this wrapper, you'll see that this DLL was created in .NET Framework 4, which means that on my operating system I would need .NET 4. You could bring this down to another version of .NET if you needed, if your OS did not have it. Now it's right now 2014, it's July of 2014. Most environments have .NET 4 on their operating system. All right, so where we need to call this regasm to register this DLL. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this DLL and I'm going to copy it to a directory that I want to register it in. So I'm going to put it in this. All right, so I just copied it in here, and I'm going to create a VB script test application to test this DLL now. But first I have to register it. Sorry, I forgot about that. All right, so I'm going to open up a command prompt in admin mode, and the way you do that is just make sure that you click on your start menu, you go to command prompt, you right click, and you say run as administrator. And I've navigated already to my directory that I'm in, and I want to call regasm on this. Now regasm is not found automatically, so let's go find where regasm is, and it's under C, Windows, Microsoft.NET. I'm going to make this a 32-bit, so just normal framework. It's a .NET 4, which is what I had before, and it's in here. So I'm going to copy that. I'm copying this as my path. I'm going to navigate back to where I was originally. Good, that in here. Okay. So if I'm in here, I'm going to call regasm, and I'm going to call it on search folders wrapper.dll, and I believe you need the /codebase as well when you're registering it. So I do that, and now it's been registered successfully. So we've created a DLL in Microsoft.NET and C#. We've made a COM Visible. We've registered on our operating system, and now we can interface it with our VB script on our OS. Okay, so let's open up AutoStore. All right, I'm going to do a separate video on how to integrate this DLL into AutoStore, but I just want to go over this very quickly. So I can go in here, I'm going to go into my script file, and again, I'm going to go into more detailed training on how to actually integrate it into AutoStore, but I just want to show you this DLL being called. Let's do that from scratch. All right, so I'm going to comment these out, so nothing should actually run. Okay, great. All right, so the first thing I need to do is I need to get a handle on my DLL. So I'm creating a variable here called search folders wrapper, and if I go back to my code, you'll see it was search folders.wrapper. Search folders.wrapper.search is the name of my, well, search folders.wrapper is the name of my DLL, and then search is the function within there. So that's what I need to do here, is search folders.wrapper.search. And if you recall, I had a function in here called say hi. I pass it a name. So let's see if we can get that working. So if I do search folders wrapper say hi, and I pass in my name, and I output the result of that call to a message box, it should say hi Nick. Fingers crossed, let's see what happens. All right, well, I got an error, but the error is my typo. So I don't know why I typed in that by hand. It always gets me in trouble. Oh, and my other error is I commented out a single quote is a comment, double quote is that. All right, so that is good, except I got too fancy in my code. All right, let's go fix that real quick. I should have stuck to the way it was before. All right, so I need to close out AutoStore. All right, let's go back in here. I forgot it's this. In order to take a variable, that means the first variable in the result, not that percent. I think the percent's in Python. All right, so we have to compile it again. We have to go back to our source or our bin directory. There's our DLL, the update date timestamp. I should go in here and paste it in. It's probably going to error out. No, it did. It worked. All right. So that's the new one. Now, if there are new function names or the function names change, that's when you have to re-register. But if everything else stays the same, you should be good. All right. So let's go back into our script code here. All right. VB script. Open up the code. All right, and I should have my fingers crossed it should work. There we go. Hi, Nick. If I said hi, Tom, put in Tom, that should work. Okay, good. So now let's actually call in my search, my actual function I had created, which was search directory, and I'm passing in these parameters. Again, I'm going to go into a lot more detailed training in just a second on integrating within AutoStore, but let's just finish this up real quick. All right, and let's pass in by dim results. I should get back a star delimited result set. I think I have to do this. I'm not sure. I just checked. I don't have to do this. All right. So we should do that. That's going to be our error return, which we would want to handle that error if there was an error. If that does contain any text in it, that means that there was an error. And let's just output the results. All right. Fingers crossed. And there we go. So here are the two results with a star. So result 1, result 2. All right, so this was a quick training in about 30 minutes of how to create a custom .NET DLL to interface with much more complex code, extrapolate that and make it simple so that you can call it from a 32-bit application that's, in this case, running VB script. This is a great way to integrate third-party applications with AutoStore. And from here, if you really needed to, at this point, write a custom component, if you wanted your own custom component, I would still highly recommend going through this process and still creating a wrapper, and then take the shell code that we have for creating custom components and then calling the wrapper from that custom code. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope this video has been helpful. Please take the time to like or comment on this video. Additionally, you can watch more videos at videos.smartmfp.net or my own YouTube channel at user/NickCarusoBiz. Or if you have technical questions, you can post them at forums.notablesolutions.com. Thank you.